Hey guys, welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be working with the second Leetcode problem in which we have to add two numbers. And the basic gist is going to be that if we're given two non-empty linked lists representing non-negative integers with the digits stored in reverse order, so 243 represents 342, we want to add them up so that we return a linked list where it also represents the sum. So in this case, 243 plus 564 yields 708 because 342 plus 465 gets 807. And so this is the problem that we're going to be working with. I made a little Google Doc right here so we can work on the problem. If you guys want, pause the video and try it on your own. But if you guys have any trouble, definitely come back and we'll work through it together. So the first thing I'm going to do is we have to take care of a few things. One, we're going to have to make sure we're looping through both of our linked lists. So we're going to have to loop through like we did in the data structure series. We're also going to have to take care of finding the sum and handling the carry. So if you with like basic addition, if you do 5 plus 5, you get 10. But if you want to carry the 1, you have to carry it up, right? So we're going to handle for those things. And those are just a few of the things we're going to have to handle for. Let's get into it. So the first two variables I'm going to create are going to be called head1, which is going to be equal to L1, and head2, which is going to be equal to L2. I'm also going to make a variable called carry, initialize it to 0 because when you add your first digits, your carry is 0. You're just adding them straight up. I'm going to create another variable called sumList, initialize it with 0, which is going to be a dummy head. So we're going to keep appending onto this sumList so that we can keep adding to our basically sum of the two linked lists. And this is just a dummy node, kind of like the head node that we put in place right now, so we have something to add on to. And then we'll see, I think it'll make a little more sense why we're doing this right now. But if we do old head is equal to our sum list, what this does is right now our old head will be is pointing at this list 0 node up here, so that at the very end, if we return our old head.next, it's going to return whatever comes after this list node over here. And since we're going to be appending our sum after this, essentially we're going to be returning our sum. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do the actual addition. And so what I'm going to say is while head1 or head2, so that we can loop through the entirety of both lists. While head1 or head2, I'm going to say if head1, if I can type it right, if head1, we're going to say num1 is equal to head1.val, else num1 is equal to 0. So all this is doing is we're just storing our num values inside these variables. Head2.val, else num2 is equal to 0. Num else. So in this case, all we're saying is if we look at this example, since there's a node at this position, this position, our num1 will be the 2, and then our num2 will be the 5. But if we are looking at an example, say something like 354 plus 36, this list has less nodes than our 354 list, and so since our last node points to none, we're checking to see if there's a node at that position, and if there isn't, instead of putting the value of that node, which is going to return an error, we're just going to put a 0 because that doesn't really do anything anyway. And so once we do that, we have stored our num1 and num2 values, and now we want to handle for calculating our sum. So it's just like calculating a sum when we're doing addition. We're going to do num1 plus num2 plus carry. We're going to create a node with the digit. So last node, sum modulo 10. And so what this is going to do is, if you don't know what modulo does, if you do 18 modulo 10, it's going to return the remainder. So it's going to return the 8. And so that's what we want to store inside our new node. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're also going to handle for our carry. So if you do sum divided by 10, that's going to return the, basically if you do 18 divided by 10, that's going to return the 1, because 10 goes into 18 one time. And so that is handling for our new sums and carries and digits. And the next thing we want to do, we want to append or add on to our sum list. So we're going to say sum list.next will be the digit that we created. And then we're going to say our sum list is equal to our sum list.next. And so what this is doing is, if we take a look at this example, the first node that we're adding on to our dummy 0 node is going to be the 7. And so once we do that, we want to move from, we want to say that our next node after our list node 0 will be the list node 7. And we want to move our list node, or our current node, from our 0 to our 7, so that when we append our 0 afterwards, we want to essentially add it after the 7 and not the 0, because that's just going to cause errors, and we're just going to keep replacing instead of adding on to. And so that is how we're going to handle for adding on to our list. And the very last thing we're going to do is, if there's a head 1, let me move this over to the next line so that you can see it. If there's a head 1, we're going to say head 1 is going to be equal to our head1.next. If there's a head 2, we're going to say our head 2 is equal to our head2.next. And so this is just going to move along in our list. If we get to a point where one of our lists ends early, then we're just going to be stuck at the none, and we're never going to move forward. So this makes sure we don't try to get the next value of our none node, or of our none value. And then up here, since we'd be stuck at the none, our num or num2 would be equal to 0 again and again until we loop through both of our lists. And so that is the majority of our sum. The last thing we want to do is, if we have a situation where if we have 5 plus 5, we're going to return 10, right? But if our digit is going to be 0 and our carry is going to be 1. But since we've looped through our entire list, since both lists are just of length 1 with the node 5, we still have a carry of 1. And so what we want to do is, we basically want to, if there's a carry that we need to add, we just want to add that onto our sum list at the very end. And so what we're going to say is, if carry is greater than 0, we're going to say that our sum list.next will be equal to a list node of our carry. And that is going to be handling for adding our carry on if we do have one. And then lastly, we're going to return our old head.next. And so this just goes back to what I was saying before, where since this old head is pointing to this list node 0, everything that comes after the 0 is the sum. And so we can just return old head.next, because we know that's going to be start of our new sum. So that should be the entirety of our adding two numbers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this over in our editor over here. Head 1, head 2 is equal to L2, carry is equal to 0, sum list is equal to our list node of 0. Our old head is equal to our sum list. Head 1 or head 2. We're going adding. Else, if it's none, we're just going to make it 0. The next thing we want to do is sum. It should be cur sum, because sum is a Python function, is equal to, let me change this over here actually. Cur sum, and cur sum. Sum is already a Python function, so we shouldn't initialize a variable with that, because if you do that, it changes colors because it's a special Python function. So num1 plus num2 plus carry, our new digit will be equal to our list node of our sum modulo 10. Our carry will be equal to our cur sum divided by 10, and this should be a modulo. Sum list dot next will be our digit. Sum list is equal to our sum list dot next. If head 1 is equal to head 1 dot next. If head 2 is equal to head 2 dot next. If carry greater than 0, our sum list dot next will be equal to our list node of our carry. And at the very end, we're going to return our old head dot next. So let me just make sure. I think that is everything. Yeah. So let me just bring up the console and we can run this test case to make sure it works. Oh, it should be cur sum, not sum. So we do get it. We get 708, which is the output that we should get. I'm gonna add one more test case. It should be 5 and 5, so that we can test to make sure that our little carry if statement here works, because if 5 plus 5 is 10, since the length of each node is only 1, we'd append the 0, but we forget about the 1. So this is making sure that we add on that carry of 1 in case we need to. So if we run that, we get 1 0 1, which is 10 backwards, which is what we want. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna hit submit, and it's gonna do a bunch of runs in the back, and these are the some of the statistics that we get. So this is how we can solve our add two numbers function on this Leetcode problem. Hopefully this helps you guys, and if you and until then, see you guys in the next one. All right, later.